Hello everyone, I'm Larry Hamilton. Thank you for joining my class today. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. Today we're going to do a couple of watercolor paintings, and I have them both already mounted here on my board, one on top of the other. Sketches are already completed, and so I want to tell you we're doing one painting from Florida, Ponce Inlet. It's called Ponce Inlet for short. It's a little seascape with a couple of sailboats out in the water and some nice dunes and some grasses in the foreground. So it should be fairly quick, maybe. But I have a couple of techniques I want to show you when we do that painting. The second painting, that painting comes from one of my nieces who took it when she was there a couple years ago. So I have that to paint. I have a second painting that I'm going to do. It's called Fraser Lake in British Columbia. And that comes from one of my, actually he's someone who purchases my art, and he has sent me this photograph, wanted to know if I would try to paint it for him. So I'm going to give it a try, and we'll be doing that. His name is Eric, and he has purchased quite a few of my paintings and seems to like my work, so I'll try to do something for him. We're going to be painting on Fabriano Artistico watercolor paper, 11 by 14 today, 300-pound cold press. So with that, I will head over to my computer now, and I will talk you through the photographs and how I crop them, and a couple other comments I want to make there. So hang on, I'll be right back here at the easel. Okay, I'm sitting at my computer now, and I have my my displays before me here, and I want to take you through the Ponce Inlet photographs, and I'm just having to correct a couple of things on my broadcast software here, which I just realized I didn't have set. Here's the original photo I wanted to show you. It's pretty wide angle, has a couple big dunes in the foreground, some rocks there, but it's got several boats. I think that's a power boat over there on the right. So I really want to just kind of focus on this sailboat that's in the middle here, and maybe pick up that cloud that's setting up above on the right and bring it over into the painting. So I cropped it down to this size, which minimizes the dunes on the foreground on the right and left, and brings that sailboat more into prominence. I have my grid. As you know, I always do a grid. And hopefully you can hear me now. Is everybody hearing me okay? Someone said they couldn't hear me now, but I hope I'm coming through. At least it looks like I'm coming through. My grid, which is 4x5 matrix, which has fits my 11 by 14 paper very well. And I use that on almost all my paintings anymore, at least my watercolors. Do it on my oil paintings as well. Okay, so here's my value map, which kind of shows you the focal point. So I want to try to make that sailboat the focal point, and that should be good for that. Like I say, it's fairly simple photo. The sketch is down below. There's links down below for the sketch, for the original reference photo, and for the value map. You can download those, and so that'll be the first painting. I'll go ahead and tell you about the second painting now. This is Fraser Lake in British Columbia. My friend who sent me this is standing on an outcropping there. You can see him, but it's also pretty far away, so I cropped this down to bring him a little more in focus, and make it fit my 11 by 14 pattern as well. And then I have my grid, which I always put over it. This again is designed for 11 by 14 watercolor paper. And then I have my value map, which I've created. And it's got some nice darks in there in the foreground on the left side. So I think it'll make a nice composition this way. I've trimmed it down so it's not quite as wide angle as it originally was. And also I have the sketch that's out there on my website. So if you want to take a look at that, download them. You can certainly use them for your painting pleasure, and give these a try when you get a chance, and be glad to hear how you do with them. So let me go back now to my easel, and we will get started on this. So now I've got my painting setup, I want to zoom in on this really closely and show you one of the things I'm using. First, I'll tell you what it is. I put some masking fluid on this particular painting in the foreground. Some of those small like reeds and grasses and that sort of thing. I want to make some of them kind of show up and maybe look kind of white. So I use this masking fluid, which is from Winsor & Newton. It's just art masking fluid. You can buy it online. You can buy it in art stores. And the new thing I'm using with this that I haven't tried before is something called these fine line applicators. You buy them. They're basically an empty bottle, and they have room to put your masking fluid in there. So I poured some masking fluid in this small one. They come in two sizes. One is a 0.8 millimeter tip and one's a 0.5 millimeter tip. And the way you use them is basically you take the top off. This is one that doesn't have the fluid in it, but the top comes off, and there's a top on here that has a very small opening, and you use that to squeeze your fluid on the paper however you want it, wherever you want it. So I've used this fine line, this 0.5 millimeter, and I've made a lot of small strokes there that will represent some of the grasses and that sort of thing. I was going to zoom in on that and let you see it. Let me take this, I don't know if you can see that, but it has sort of a yellow appearance. So what we'll do is we'll paint over that, and then when that paint dries, I will rub that masking fluid off, and we'll be able to paint some other things there, leave some of it white, but it should be an interesting exercise. I've seen some other artists try to do that, and I kind of like the technique. So anyway, let me get my camera all set up here again. Make sure you can see everything. I want you to see that border, but I want to make sure you see the full image. So I think now I'll put my palette back on for you. And I think we're ready to go, except I want to go through my paints with you. I wanted to do that, and brushes. So you saw this setting here. I have my Sterling Edwards palette with my couple of large brushes. These are bristle brushes that I use. There's a small and a medium. Very nice to do blending with. I have a couple of flats here. I have a 1-inch flat and a 1/4-inch flat, or 1/2-inch flat, I'm sorry. So I'll probably be using those a lot. I have some rounds here. I have a number 12, number 8, number 6, number 4, and then I have a script liner here as well. So I'll probably won't use all those brushes, but I have them available, and I can use them if I need them. And that's basically my complement. I do have a few other brushes here from Trekell, which I use off and on. They're mop brushes, and you've seen me use those before, try to use those before. They tend to be a little rough to do when you're painting totally vertically like this, because they carry so much water that they tend to run on me, so I have to be very careful when I'm using those. So that's all I want to show you there. Well, I want to show you the paints. Don't let me forget to tell you the paints and explain what I have here in my palette. I have, in this starting here, I have neutral tint, have primary blue cyan, ultramarine blue, permanent violet bluish, have crimson lake, primary red magenta, and cadmium red. My earth tones, I have burnt sienna, raw sienna, and yellow ochre. On the outside row, I have a cupric green, a sap green, I have limon yellow, which is yellow with a little green in it, and I have primary yellow, which is basically yellow with a little bit of orange in it. I have a couple of browns here. I have a burnt umber, and I have a still to grain brown, which is a very beautiful transparent brown. I have Auvergne orange here, which is sort of a reddish color, but it has an orange tint to it. So that's my palette of colors. That's my brushes. I told you what we're painting. I showed you the paper and with my sketch on it. I'm going to go here before I start. I want to take a little bit of this graphite off. It's probably a little too strong, particularly where I put the sky in up here. I don't want those lines to show up. When I erase this, I'll still be able to see it. You may not. It's probably, I do it darker so you can see it, but I want to take some of this out so that it's not quite so prominent. I don't have a lot here in the water, not much in the sky, not too much over here, so it's really just this background here that sort of sticks out behind this Ponce Inlet, and this is where boats come in and out to get out to the water, to the ocean. This Ponce Inlet is an area that's not far from Daytona Beach in Florida, and a lot of people spend time down there. My sister spends time there every year if she can, and so this came from her stepdaughter, this photograph. So let's get started. I'm going to put some water on it, and we will get going. I want to just wet it down a little bit for the sky so I have some nice soft, see, my brush had a little color in it there. I don't like that. So let's put some water here, clear water, just across the sky, and it'll help. Putting the clear water there just helps the colors when you put them in. It helps them get soft, so you don't have a lot of hard edges in it. That's all I want to do there for that right now. Let me start with my 1-inch brush. I'm going to pull out my ultramarine blue here in the palette, and we will start with that in the sky. I'm going to leave some area over here for that cloud that was in the original photo, but it was way over on the right side, and I cropped it out. So I'm going to bring it back in. So hopefully I can just get in and pull these colors in, and we'll get sort of a nice little wash going here. Leave some room for some other clouds in here in the sky. I don't want it to be all the same color if I can keep from it, but I want to make sure I have bring some more water in, loosen it up a little bit like this. Darker on one side, a little lighter on the other. Getting some running going here. I just want to make this sort of fade into the background here if I can. Lighter and lighter. I want to kind of paint around these sails here. I want to make sure I got room for those. You can always come in here and use something and take that paint out if I want to make a sailboat in the distance, but right now I'm just going to leave it like that. Try to make sure I have some softness here, and leave some room for some clouds. Looks like I got a little bit of a square cloud there. Don't particularly like that. Put in a little bit of soften it up a little bit. Put a few more things here, and that might be it. I'll just put a little bit of my neutral tint in there, in the sort of in the bottom of these a little bit to sort of darken it down, give myself a little bit of a shadow under these, so it gives me some more color, gives me a little more texture. It looks like these might be real clouds that are getting some sun from somewhere. Sun actually looks like it's coming from the right side, hitting this sail, making it really light up out there, and so that's why this area of the painting on the right, lower right, is going to be fairly dark, and that will be all I want to do for the sky right now. Make sure I don't have hard edges along here. There's a area that has a lot of grasses, and it's sort of a berm over there. There's actually a beach, I guess, over on this other side across, and can't quite get to the beach. If you go by boat, you can, but otherwise you have to drive several miles out of your way to get around to that beach across here. But that will do for that. I'm going to get my smaller brush, my flat brush, and start getting some color here. I want to get some of this raw sienna. It will probably make a good color for some of this sand, I hope. But in the back I have a lot of this, I guess it's a combination of green and I'm going to get some sap green in here, ochre, yellow ochre, and maybe even put in some blue to get a little darker values in there. So I'm making myself a set of colors here that have sap green, yellow ochre, and ultra blue. Okay, so those colors are what's going to make this little background area here. I want to make sure that it's fairly dry. I think it is. So let's just see what we can do back here. It's pretty far away, and I want to just hit it with these various colors and put it in back there. So it's got some ochre, some of these ochre colors in there. There's some things going on. There's some buildings and some other things back there. There's a little building right here that sort of sticks up, got some gray to it. But it's really very, very narrow, very thin ribbon of trees and grasses and bushes and all that sort of stuff over there. Okay, so it's a very, very narrow. That's why I'm using this flat brush. Kind of like this flat brush for these kinds of things. Painting around another boat, sailboat that's back here that really is hard to see. It's almost impossible to see on the photograph, but it's over there. So I'm going to leave some room for it there. Probably see the sail starting to stick up already, even though I haven't painted the boat. So I'm going to get in between this sailboat and one next to it. I'm going to put in some green. Leave this sail there. Come back and put in a few more darks over here to give it some more depth. As you know, these watercolors tend to dry about, I don't know, 20–30% lighter than when you put them on. So you have to put them on a little darker than you think you should. So when they dry, they don't lighten up too much on you. You want to have some nice darks in your painting. Usually, one of the things most of my paintings, when I get them judged by a workshop instructor or somebody like that, when they tell me what I did wrong, is I don't have enough darks in my painting. They'll tell me to go back and make this darker, make that darker, and it's a good advice for everyone. Put a little alizarin in here so that I can brown these up here in the distance. Painting is really, it's the darks that make the light show up, and if you don't put enough dark in, you're not going to show up the light very well. So let me just finish that off over there, and I want to have another little ribbon of sand underneath there, but I wanted to get these darks in. Looks like some trees going on back here, and a lot of things. It's really up to you. Just sort of ad lib it there. You don't have to. I'm not actually trying to paint something specific. I'm just sort of giving you a impressionistic look back there. This little building here has some gray on it. Not sure what that is. That might be a hotel or something back there in the distance. I've only been over here a couple of times and didn't get around very far. Actually, I don't think I've ever been over in that area of the... So let me go back to my raw sienna here and see what happens if I put some down here. Very light. Just pure raw sienna is all I'm using here, with a good bit of water in it. So it's just sort of making a the bank. It's really, the bank is, a lot of it's kind of white over there, so I'm going to leave some of it just white paper. But around these objects, these boats and things, I want to have something to make them, help them stand out a little bit. A little bit over here, just dot it in, and that's all you have to do. So that's that. Take some of these colors out of here on my palette, clean it up a little bit, and I'm going to start putting in this water. The water is, I'm going to use primarily, I think I'm going to pull my cyan blue out here, and I'll mix a little of my green with that. This is a pretty decent watercolor. It's got a little bit of, I think it's got a little bit of green in it actually. By the way, if any of you have any questions or want to ask me anything, or something's stumping you about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, type it in the chat window here, and I have a computer up here at my elbow, and I can look at it and see what you're asking and try to answer your questions. So I'm taking this big brush, just sort of running it across here to hit these areas where the water touches back there. Making it dark. I'm going to add a little green to it in some areas to give me a little bit of a different color. Okay. Just a series of leave a few little white spots in there and let it sort of run and change up. I think there's just two boats here sort of together running. Get some dry brush in there. By pulling fast, you can get what's called dry brush. Probably heard me talk about that before, but it's this type of thing where the brush actually skips across the paper and leaves marks that are hit and miss. It's because this paper is cold press and it's 300 pound. There's a good set of dry brush right there. I may not leave all of that, but I want to show you how to do that. So this wasn't really a windy day or anything. It's sort of a pretty calm waters out there, it looks like to me, but there's a little bit of roughness going on here. Pull some water out, just sort of paint it in. So I said I think this is going to go fairly fast. I don't know if you can see here where I'm painting over now my where I have this masking fluid. You can see there's something yellow sticking up there. That's where the masking fluid is preventing the paint from getting on the paper. Over here, let's some room for the sand dunes. So I'm changing the color, adding a little bit of this green, adding a little bit of the blue, coming at changing the color a little bit here and there, just giving it some streaks that look like there's movement in that water, even though it's not real rough. It does have some movement to it, and there is a little wind over these rocks. So these are fun paintings to do because they tend to go fairly quickly. And I don't like that angle I got on that. I'm going to try to straighten that out so it doesn't look like it's curved. All right, is it dark enough? Good question. Make it a little darker over here, maybe. There is some water. Let's see if I can get a small brush here and put some water in between these boats. Help them stand out just a little bit more. So you can see that, hopefully. So you can see the water behind the boat, which is what I was trying to do. I can't get that with this big fat brush, that's for sure. Keep checking my monitor here behind me to see what it looks like. See if I'm see what you're seeing actually. I have to make sure I don't distort this to the point where you can't see it very well, or have my camera pointing in the wrong way, or all right. That's probably good for now. These dunes again are very, very light, very almost white. Let me see if I can get some more of this raw sienna and try to add a little bit of yellow. See if that changes the color a little bit. It's going to yellow it up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the color I want. I don't think so. Try ochre with a lot of water in it. Maybe there's a way to do that. The other thing I could try is this brown and see if I can lighten it up a lot. So over here, so I'm just use a little bit of my spray bottle here, see if I can get some more water in there. Using a little still to grain brown here with throwing some water in it and trying to get the light color here. There's some rocks out here. Let me make sure I capture those if I can. Looks pretty light on your screen. Looks almost a little darker for me, but that's okay. And so by throwing a little water on there, what am I doing? I'm giving it some areas for it to sort of bleed out and make it less dark. So there, let's see here. There, I want to make sure. Whoops, I don't want the blue, I want that brownish color with, this is going to be painted over, a lot of this is going to be darker. making it darker than it is in the photograph. I want this area on the right to be fairly dark, so I'm going to pull some other browns in here. A little burnt sienna won't hurt. Just using this 1/2-inch brush and just trying to make it look sort of sandy and rocky. There's not a color in anybody's palette that says this is the color of sand. You have to sort of use what you have, and so I'm going to have some dark shadows in here. I'm going to come back and put that in. Those rocks are a little bit gray, so I'm going to get a room in my palette here. And hello, Luis Ortega. Welcome. Thank you. These rocks, I want to have just a little water in them because I want them to be soft. Right in here, I'm going to put just a little water. Probably didn't even know we had rocks in there, but I'm going to make some rocks. How am I going to do that? Neutral tint. And come in here and just sort of put in some gray and make it angled and sharp in some areas and soft in some other areas. Make it darker at the bottom where it goes into the ground. Same over here. A little bit of rockiness over here. So there's some shadows, a bunch of shadows floating around. And I want to capture those. Okay. Get my round brush out here and see if I can start putting in a few things that look like shadows going across the take this. And so when you watch me paint, I have not painted this scene before, so I don't have something to go by other than the photograph and a bit of my instincts, and just try to see what happens here when I put paint on the paper. And there's some shadows in here in some areas, some fine shadows that probably I need almost use my script liner for, because it's a much finer brush. I'm just picking up neutral tint now and sort of putting in some things that look like there might be a bunch of shadows crisscrossing here. Making the shadows in this area because there's tons of weeds and all kinds of things going on here. Come back over in this area, we got a bunch of same kind of stuff going on. A lot more than I would paint, but I will be putting in a few more things. So I'm just kind of almost scribbling here to make these shadows that turn up. And if they're not a shadow, they're going to be green and be a weed or be a something else that is growing over here. All right, let's let that dry, and let's go back and work on these couple boats here. I'm going to use my neutral tint again and see if I can put in some edge. Comes down like this. Then there's a dark, it kind of goes like this and back like this. So hopefully that's see that. There's another couple things that come down here and sort of run out there. Down here we've got a number of things going on. This has a small shadow behind the sail, so I'm just sort of drawing that. I don't have to do a ton of work here, folks. This is pretty abstract and pretty loose. This little sailboat back here is almost possible to see. I'm going to put a slight shadow there and something that looks like a base on it in the water somewhere there. This one has a little bit more definition. This boat got a few colors on it out there, actually. I don't know what those colors are, but let me throw a little bit of my alizarin here and maybe mix it with this brown or this neutral tint. See if we can put a few things in here that kind of draw your eye. Put a splotch of red in there, your eye will go over there. So not too much, just sort of make it. This is all right. Let me see here if I got some more darks I can add in here. These rocks have some texture in them. See if I can put a few more things there. All right. Even in the background back there, there's a few. These are like little dunes. They have sort of areas where the sand is making shadows over there. So it helps define that a little bit. The little darks on this. All right. I don't know if that's quite dry enough. I'm going to get my hair dryer out here and blow dry this thing a little bit. Make sure that wherever I have this masking fluid, that I have a nice dry surface. I see this water over here looks a little bit too light. Come back and put another couple of swipes in there. Get some blue on it. There, something like that before I dry it. Okay. Maybe a few more, some more rough texture. You can take this dark blue, put it in your brush, and just sort of, since this is somewhat dry, you can kind of get some more rough texture going across there like this, which helps make the story of movement, helps make sure that it's flat. There. All right, so just giving you some tips here. All right, now I want to dry this. And I'm going to turn my microphone off so I don't blow your ears out. So hold on. Should have my microphone back on now. Good. All right. One of the ways to get this masking fluid off is to take a kneaded eraser and just sort of pull it off. It actually it's rubberized so that it comes off very easily, but when it's this fine, it's kind of hard to get it all with your fingers. So you see what's happening here when I pull that masking fluid off, all of a sudden I have all these little white streaks out there that represent some of the reeds and so forth, and the stuff that's growing here and sticking up over the water. So trying to leave that white when I'm painting water, there's almost no way you could do it if you didn't use something like a masking fluid. You'd have to have a very, very stable hand to paint that, and so that's why people use masking fluid. They come in and will put this over something they want to have available, have the white paper available, and you can take it out. So now what we want to do is come in with my fine rigger brush again, and I'm going to pick up some greens. I'm going to pick up my sap green, and I'm going to get me some yellow in there, I think, to lighten it up. I think I need a bigger brush to get some paint out of here. Sap green and my bright yellow, and mix that with these two colors, and I should get something the color of the of all of these grasses here in the foreground. So now I've got the white in there. I'm going to come in with a very fine brush now, my script liner. I'm going to start putting in clumps of the grass here. I want to get it, has to be really sort of dry paint. And so I want to put these in. Again, sort of, there's just tons of these things going on in there. Some of them, the colors are changing. They're sort of in clumps. They sort of grow out of certain areas like this over here. So you can sort of put them in like that, and then try to keep it very loose. Try to keep it very random, which is what these things are. They're all very random, growing out here like this. Get some more dark ones in. More paint, less water, get you darker ones like this. So I got to have something here that's causing these shadows, right? Over here I've got some clumps that are very green, and the light again is shining on this, so I want these to be darker over here if I can make them darker. Crisscross them, don't have them all going one direction. Make them crisscross back and forth. Over here, I think there's a few clumps up here even. Let me try that. My brush is splitting out and giving me more than one. Okay, so let's see how that looks. And I'm not nearly done with this, folks. I've got quite a few other colors I want to put in here and sort of make this look more like the photograph. I'm not trying to exactly duplicate the photograph, but I am certainly trying to get the feel of all of these grasses here in the foreground and that sort of thing. So let's get some more of this, get some burnt umber here, and we'll start putting in a few of these here. Let's put some of these in, like same idea. These are probably ones that are maybe dead or have some of them stick way up there in the sky. These, because they have a nice dark brown to them, I can make them kind of shoot up like this. My brush is not holding its point like I want it to. Okay, let's put a... And having some dry brush in here is not bad either. You can see when I pull it really fast, I get this dry brush technique, which is very good. This is the kind of thing you could spend a long time doing. We've been going probably total time of 40 some minutes, 45 minutes, but I took time to explain things to you, so I've only been on this painting a lot less than that, less time than that. So if I can get some nice things going up like that. Give me some more room here. Some of these go right off the top of the paper. Because we're so close, we're sitting here very close with these. Have some that have some leaves on them that sort of like and so you see how this kind of ties together with the white areas. Give me some gray in here now, and throw in some gray gray, green, whatever I can get here. Just put in a bunch of these that look really busy, and still I didn't take that thing all the way up to the top of the paper, did I? Like that. And like that. Several over here that have some gray in them. So it's just sort of however you want to make this look. Just use your paints and your colors and your imagination and make it very grassy. Behind these rocks, maybe there's some grass. All right. And then a fun thing to do always is to sort of give it some splatter. There's a couple ways to give it some splatter. I can get a lot of water on a brush like this, get some darker colors in this brush, and just sort of do this. And these long bristles give me a nice splatter effect. I could use a toothbrush. I've used that before. But do that. We can add maybe just a little water here and there to sort of make some of them runny, so they're not all just hard-edged. So it helps loosen up the painting. Anytime you start splattering something, you loosen up this painting a lot. All right, let me see. Whoops, sorry about that. I think I might just stop on this. I have some interesting things going on, some little things that look like we got some sea grasses, sea oats, or whatever they're called. So it's not nearly as many weeds and things as there actually are in this painting, but it gives that impression that it's there's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of growth. You could walk down there and get a photo. I want to make sure I think I want just a little bit of blue in this boat back here, this one boat. Just a little bit of blue in there. There's a little bit on that one. All right, I think that looks like 2 or 3 sailboats out there in the water, and that's really what I was trying to do. And hopefully you like that. Hope you can give that a try. It's probably too wet to sign my name, so I don't think I'm going to sign my name on this right now. It's too damp. But I am going to peel this off and start for our next painting. If you want to take a couple-minute break, you need to get a cup of coffee or something, or a tea, or a bathroom break. I've got a lot of splatters on my palette here from my... Okay, so I'm going to try to get some of this off here. All right, so that's my Ponce Inlet painting for today, and I hope you like it. Hope you can give it a try. I'm going to peel this off now. Hang on, and should have another painting sketch right underneath it. And there we go. That one's finished. Okay, let's put it over here to continue drying. And I have now a second painting setting here. I'm going to change my value map and photograph that's at the top of my easel. You always see the top of my easel here, which I keep my photographs up above so I can see them. Try to keep on top of the colors. Have my value map, and I always put it over here on the right side of my easel, pin it down over here, and I think that's ready to go. All right, so what do I have here? I have a lake. This is up in British Columbia, which is in Canada, of course. And I've never been there, but my friend who sent me the photo said that this was him standing out here. I think he was age 16 maybe when this was taken. So he's standing on this little rock outcropping. I'm going to try to preserve him, and I don't have any masking on this, but I am going to take off some of this graphite because it's too much. It will show up. I'm going to leave enough that I know where to put some stuff, but I'm going to make it harder for you to see this sketch. I'm just using this kneaded eraser, the same thing I used to get that masking fluid off the other painting, and I need to get a good drink of water here, folks. Time out. I'll put my microphone on mute. Okay. I think I'm set for another painting. We've been going almost an hour. I think this will go maybe fairly quickly as well. Maybe not, I don't know. We'll find out when we get started here. One thing I forgot to do is get me a second container of clean water. But the one I've got's not really terribly dirty, so I'm gonna continue with it. I do have some clean water here that I do have another container of clean water, and I can start with this and put some water up here to start my sky. I like to have these skies soft, and so clear water does that for you. Take it all the way down to the top of these little mountains out here, outcroppings, whatever they are. So as I put that on, it's going to dry at the top first. This guy has a little bit of a alizarin in it. I'm going to, as I start down the painting, I'm going to use my ultra blue here, and I'm going to put some some alizarin crimson here. So I'll mix those together a little bit and start getting I'm going to try to do a wash from top to bottom, that or top to the least where I have it here. I'll make sure I've got plenty of water up there. It tends to run down on the paper. Got some room there. Okay, I'm going to have some clouds in here. There's a big area of sky here that's got nothing going on except some gradation of the sky. So it's darker at the top. So I'm going to just sort of pull this across, start a wash down like this, and it will get lighter and lighter, but I'm going to put some alizarin in it as we come down and make it sort of that color, and as we get closer down I'm going to make it even pinker or more red, if you will. This is in Canada, and so the skies likely tend to be cooler. I don't know, I think this was taken in the summertime. It looks like it. He's got short sleeve shirt on there, so it was probably warm, but let's just kind of keep this idea going here. So I've got this pretty sky. Make sure I cover enough here to where I put my trees in, I can see the sky through there. And I want it soft edge down here. I don't want it hard edge. Okay. Take this. Everybody's still with me? Looks like we got a pretty good crew still watching. Good. I'm going to come back while this is still wet and try to hit just a little more of this reddish color in there. Probably it looks too dark to me right now, but I think as it dries off it's going to look better. All right, so now I got a lot of areas here that that have rocks and have it's basically almost clear white on this paper. These outcroppings here. Make sure that I have some area. All right. Rocks. This, I don't want to get too much into this because it's wet. It's going to run together until I dry that, until it dries. So let's step down and look at some of these rocks here. These rocks have some neutral tint and blue in them, sort of a steel blue. See what happens if I put something in here like this. Big brush. That's a rock of some kind. Touches the water and put this little touch of dark down there at the bottom, and it bleeds up because that is wet. I got a rock there. I got some rocks over here that have maybe a little alizarin in. I'll pick up a little of this alizarin I have and mix it with my neutral tint, with my blue, and see if I can get another. Let's see, that's the bottom. Make sure I know where I am here. There, okay. It's the bottom coming over here. Definitely this is a rock here. And I want to paint around my silhouette of a person here. Might even be some rock over here on the other side of this tree. Leave room for my person. A little hard for you to see that probably, what I'm doing there, but just putting in some interesting little rocks back there while I'm letting this dry up above here. So Another little rock right in here. And a technique of taking some dark and just putting it on the bottom tends to really help define those. There's another, let's see, here we have another, where'd that rock go? This is, yeah, right here. So what I'm leaving that white area, it's probably I'm gonna probably just leave it that way, and let the white represent the water. See here, get me a little bit of more dark right in here. Some more dark over this way. See, it all bled up, all went away over there by just the paint sort of that was in the paper, sort of sucked that water right up to into the rest of that rock. It's still wet. We have here behind him, these are sort of, I'm going to get my smaller brush, my 1/2-inch brush. And they have a little bit of green to them. See if I can pull out some of my sap green. They have a sort of a covering, a green type covering on them of grasses or something that's out here like this. And it needs to be darker in some areas. So let's make it darker. So this is a see here like this. Leave some room. I got this other big rock he's standing on. It's in the sort of in the foreground, so I want to make sure that I leave room for that. This comes around here like this and out. Makes another little peninsula-like, I guess you'd call it. And even comes around like this and starts touching the trees. That are over here. All right, so I'm painting everything but the water, but you're going to be able to see water. You get start getting some browns and some of those colors in here. So that's just sort of some rocks that have some grass growing on it. Give it a little texture. I put a few spot things in there. It goes, actually it comes all the way over. It actually goes over here in some areas. All right. How are we doing? When you want to test the wetness of your paper, always use the back of your hand instead of your fingers, because you have a lot of oil on the tips of your fingers, and you don't put the oil on the paper that way. So, nice little tip for you. I'm going to get me some my permanent violet here and see if I can come back now and put in this outcropping here. It's got to be darker. A little bit darker anyway. This whole thing here is sort of, it's probably too much purple. Let's tone it down just a little. Okay, so mixture of colors, and it comes in, and there's another a little bit darker one in front of it. It sits here. And I think that's so you can print out these original photos from my website. You can print out the sketch and you can give this a go. Back here is more gray, bluish gray, I want to say, all the way across here. All right. A lot of trees in here. A whole bunch of trees up there. So let's just put in a few more things here to help flush this out. All right. A few more things in these rocks to give them a little more definition. I think the sun is coming from the right, so anything I want to put the darks on, I want it to be sort of on the either the bottom or the left side of whatever the object is. These rocks that are laying in the water always have dark on the bottom. Okay, so where are we here? I think we're ready for some of these big old trees. See that area here that I want to fill in with some gray. Put in some gray. Make this look like water back there, I guess. I give it some rough texture. I can, just so it's not completely white. I think that's better. I'm just going to leave it white, but I think I'm going to put a little tone in there. Not much, just very, very light. And it starts getting bluer as it comes here, so I can darken it up as we come forward. It's got a little more blue in it than that, I think. So let's put a little more blue in it. All right. Here it's probably bluer, a little darker as well. Trying to protect my figure there. This is going to have some all the way down. All right, stop on that. Now, I think it's time to get my get working on these trees. And think, well, let's see, there's a little bit of a, I want to put a little bit of a cloud-like formation in here somewhere. The sky does, I mean, the sky is not bad. I'll put a little white, clear water in here and see if I can just put a little bit of a shadow of some kind in here. Make it look like we got some sort of a cloud going on. Soften it up. All right. Let's stop on that. I'm going to clean my palette out now and start working on these greens. We got a lot of green trees, dark, got some yellows in them. But I think that'll do for that little cloud. Use your fingers. Tell you not to put your finger on, then I just put my finger on. Do what I say, not what I do. All right, I'm going to get some of this cupric green. I'm going to get some of this lemon yellow. It's going to be too bright. Tone it down with this other yellow here. I'm going to get some of my blues in there. And I need another value. I'm going to get my neutral tint. All right, so those are the colors I'm going to try to make these trees out of. I've got a lot of trees here, and they're kind of in silhouette, but I don't want to totally make them in silhouette. I'm going to see what happens here when I do this. Bam. Put some green in it. Down. I've got some, I don't know, sort of, I see a cad red in there somewhere. I think the cad red is going to gray this green down, which is probably what I need to do. Over here I've got another little tree of some sort that's setting up like this. Mix some greens, come in there with some green. All the way down here. Leave some areas, some air holes. Dark, get some dark in there. Bam. Big brush. Darker on the left side, put some darks in there. Blue, black, cupric green, yellow, cad red. Things go all the way down to the bottom, actually. So I'm not trying to be too careful with this. I'm just sort of slamming it in there. Putting different dark colors together. Over here I got some lighter trees over there. I'm going to see if I can put a few of these things that look like they're sticking out. So a lot of dark color here. Come in and put some more water in there maybe and get some other textures, get some soft textures, some hard textures. All this over here on the left is sort of reddish brown. All right, I got trees in there like you wouldn't believe. All done with this big brush and some rough texture. And sort of want to put in a few trunks here. You can't really see the trunks that well in the photograph, but you know these trees wouldn't be there without some healthy trunks floating around in there. Always use the back of your brush here to scrape in some things that look like there might be some trees in front. Kind of like to do that once in a while. It helps give these a little more texture to these kind of things. But basically it's very, very dark, very, very yellowish, reddish, orangish. There's red and orange, all kind of colors in here. So I'm going to put a few more darks up here, sort of help break this up a little bit. And maybe a few on this side over here. Okay. Got some air holes in there, which is good. Down here we've got some areas. We're starting to get into some rockiness. All this is sort of a reddish type of rock here. Got another little small tree that sits right in here. It was all bent over and I decided not to bend it over. And it sort of sits right here on this rock. Get some yellows in there. It goes all the way down into some other bushes here. Sort of pick up some yellows and some grasses. There's some grasses in here that are sort of going over to where our fellow's standing, right in here. So let's put those in. We got some rocks coming out under them. Okay. So that's quick, fast, loose. All right. I could have kept going with this. Again, it's those kind of things you can keep messing with for quite a while, but I decided to stop. We've got rocks in here. There's a lot of texture in those rocks. Sort of a gray and this reddish color I had with the greens. Sort of a rust type color. See what happens. I put a few more browns in there. I get some. Still has the reddish color in it. So let's see right here. There's a lot of rough texture here. This is a and I need some darker spots in there to sort of give it some shadow over here on this side, which is where the shadows are, coming all the way down into this area. So I'm getting a dark in here, folks. That's what I was talking about earlier. You need some really darks if you can get them. It really helps. So let's put some more of this rockiness here. Reddish color, some more rough texture, some more so there's a bit of a path that goes up here that he was able to walk out on, I'm sure. So I'm trying to leave it look like there's a little bit of a path of some sort there that you could come down. How are we doing on time? Pretty good. So let's just put in some more rockiness. So a lot of these, I think these rocks sort of overrun the trees in some areas. Let's do this. There we go. Got a bunch more trees over here to fill this in, put him in, and we'll be done. Try just a little of this neutral tint here with my smaller brush and see if I can sort of give a bit of a okay, it looks like there could be a path to get up there to where he is. I think I want some this color down in here. I think I'm just going to fill all this in with some dark trees again and not worry too much with it. I may use my smaller brush, get some colors in here that I think can represent the trees. My greens, get some red in there to gray the green down, get some neutral tint in there to darken it up, throw in some blue to get some extra darks. And starting right in here, I'm going to start with a really dark tree, I hope. Not quite dark enough. Get darker, get darker. I want it to stand out there so you can see it. Yeah. So really, really dark tree. Sort of comes in here and just lays over everything, and it kind of joins with some smaller trees here that you can think of these as almost like a clump of trees, and then just sort of make the edges look like this is what tells the viewer what he's looking at. It's not this big blob in the middle. It's what's on the edges. Very important concept to remember, that what tells the viewer what he's looking at is what's at the edges. So if you make the edges look like pine trees or evergreen trees, whatever you put in the middle is not going to be all that important, because it sort of just gets blended away in your mind. And so that's what we're doing. We're finishing this thing up, at least with the set of trees here, double sets of trees. Changing the color a little bit, adding some yellow, adding some red. Just want to put in some color over there to sort of pull this together, so that when I put a tree over it, I've got something to fill in the background with. This is pretty loose. It's just a whole series of trees over here that sort of fill this area all in over here. I can just sort of block it in and throw in big globs of paint here in the middle. And when you look at what's on the edges, you're going to see things that make it look like old pine trees sitting there. See, I'm giving you these little zigzag type marks that say pine trees. Some are wider than others, some are narrower, but I'm putting them all in there and filling this area in with a bunch of trees. And all this down here, you don't even know it, that it sort of goes together, and it's a good place to try out some of my see, when I put this in, if the water is just right, it scrapes the paint away, leaves a light line. If you do it too soon, it fills it back in and gets a dark line. If you do it too late, nothing happens. So it's too late here, it's just about right there. All right, now all we got left to do is to put this guy out there with his hat on him and his white blue jeans, or his white pants, his blue shirt. So let's see if we can do that. Probably need a small brush again. I'm going to use my script liner and see if I can put this in here. Shadow here. And then over here in his pants, we want to have a little bit of shadow. Make them gray, but have a shadow left side. We can do that. Probably want to put a little bit of a face or a okay, it looks like it might be a person there. Darken it in. Let these colors sort of run together. Can't see his feet, but he's maybe kind of standing on a rock. And let's just drop a little hat of some kind on him. All right, that was kind of fast and furious, kind of fast and loose. I think I probably need to do some of this splatter technique in here. It looks like it's pretty, I'll put a little water in there and some spots, and then come back with my, my browns on this brush, get a lot of water on it. And maybe a few reds, and just sort of pop it in there if I can get it to come off the brush. Come on, wetter, wetter, wetter. There we go. And up here we got some greens and blues and stuff. Let's just throw in some, whatever we can throw in there. Okay, I think it looks like there's a guy standing out there. The only thing I could do to help maybe make him stand out just a little more would be to put a little bit of a may make it worse, but I wanted to put there's water out there that sort of he's looking at. Okay, so make his arms a little bit longer, his face a little bit redder. All right, folks, I'm going to stop. And this again is kind of too wet to sign my name, but I'm going to say, hope you like this painting. I hope you give it a try. I hope you give both of these a try. And if you do, put it on my comments section on the YouTube, or put it on my Facebook page. Check my Facebook page out. Check my website out if you've been out there to get the sketch and a reference photo and the value map. Those will help you paint this painting. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And if you like this, like the way I do these videos, like the way I do my painting, tell your friends. If you have other artist friends, let them know, send them a link. And that will help me get some more subscribers and maybe some more views. And I think that's all I want to tell you today. So thanks for tuning in, and appreciate you being here, and I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll give it a try. So until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye-bye.